Why does a Labrador look calm when you leave? Then unravel 30 minutes later, as if the closed door quietly tore its world apart. To many owners, the first few silent minutes seem reassuring. But inside a social dog, separation can begin as a slow rising emergency. Labradors were shaped to stay connected, read human movement, follow shared routines, and relax through companionship, not through long stretches of uncertain distance. So when the door clicks shut, the problem is not stubbornness or drama, but a nervous system suddenly cut away from safety. This story follows one Labrador's inner timeline, from denial at the doorway to scent-seeking, stress-chewing, and finally full panic mode. Then we turn the pattern around. No, because healing starts when departures stop feeling like emotional cliff edges and start feeling small and ordinary. Long before you touch the doorknob, your Labrador is already reading the ritual that predicts absence. And that prediction changes the whole body. Keys in your hand, shoes by the mat, a jacket lifted from the chair, each cue whispers the same unbearable message: you are leaving. Dogs do not interpret those signals as abstract future plans. They feel them as approaching distance, and distance can feel like danger. For a Labrador built around partnership, your absence is not just empty space. It can feel like the sudden collapse of a team. That is why some Labradors begin worrying before you ever leave, because anticipation itself activates the body long before loneliness fully lands. The first stage is not chaos. It is disbelief, a tense waiting state where the dog acts as though the separation might reverse. He stays near the door because proximity still feels useful, as if standing guard there could pull your footsteps back into the room. Some dogs sit quietly, some pace in short loops, some freeze and listen. But all are trying to solve the same impossible absence. To an owner, that waiting can look patient, even sweet. But inside it often carries rising tension, shallow breathing, and narrowed attention. Your Labrador is not calmly accepting the goodbye. He is testing reality, checking whether this strange moment is truly becoming real now. During these first minutes, every sound outside the door matters. Every hallway creak could mean your return. Every silence deepens uncertainty further inside. This is denial in dog form, not a thought spoken in words, but a body refusing to believe the bond has gone missing. By around 5 minutes, hope begins thinning, and the Labrador's mind shifts from waiting at the exit to searching for you elsewhere. Now scent becomes the closest substitute for your presence, because smell holds emotional information long after a room stops holding your body. He noses your shoes, presses into laundry, circles the couch, and investigates doorways because odor feels like proof that connection still exists. This searching is not random mischief. It is an attempt to regulate fear by finding traces of the person who normally makes life feel predictable. When he buries his nose deeper into a shirt, he is not stealing it for fun. He is trying to inhale stability. Owners often mistake that moment for preference, but preference is too simple a word for a body urgently seeking chemical reassurance there. As the wait stretches longer, cortisol rises, and higher cortisol makes thinking narrower, impulses quicker, and self-soothing harder to sustain alone now. That is when a Labrador can begin chewing, not because destruction feels rewarding, but because physical action gives overwhelming stress somewhere to go. A shoe carries your smell, your shape, and the last place your body pressed, so it becomes both comfort object and frustration target. The chewing may start small, a lace tugged loose, a sock dragged away, a cushion corner worked between the teeth for relief. From outside, that damage looks defiant, yet defiance requires emotional distance, and an anxious Labrador is experiencing the opposite. Too much attachment. He is not punishing your absence. He is discharging fear through jaws, paws, movement, and frantic contact with things that still smell like you. By 10 to 15 minutes, many Labradors stop checking the door as often because uncertainty has shifted into a more physical stress state. Now the body takes over the story. Heart rate stays elevated, muscles stay ready, and the room feels less like home and more like trap. Some dogs begin vocalizing here. First a whine, then a bark, then repeated calls meant to bridge a distance they cannot cross. Those sounds are not performances for neighbors. They are contact attempts, the canine version of asking whether the missing partner can still hear. When no answer comes, barking can sharpen because unanswered contact increases urgency. And urgency pushes the dog from concern towards something closer to alarm. In this phase, even familiar furniture can become collateral damage because the Labrador is no longer responding to objects as harmless household things. The table leg is a surface to bite. The blanket is something to dig through. The cushion is resistance for a panicked mouth. This is what panic does. It strips the room down to functions: escape route, scent source, pressure point, noise outlet, possible reunion. Around the 30-minute mark, some Labradors hit their peak distress when vocal bursts, destructive behavior, and restless movement blend into one cycle. At that point, the dog is not making choices the way a calm dog would. He is managing a flooded nervous system. That matters, because punishment after the fact only teaches that your return brings tension, not that solitude is safe or understandable yet. The ruined pillow is evidence of suffering, not a plan for revenge. And treating it like revenge deepens the original misunderstanding completely. Separation anxiety is especially common in labs because their temperament leans toward social closeness, optimism, routine, and active cooperation with human life. That friendly nature is beautiful when a home feels stable. But it can become vulnerability when connection suddenly disappears without enough practice. A Labrador does not need to be neglected to struggle. Sometimes, a deeply loved dog struggles more because the bond is so central. Dogs with separation anxiety are not spoiled by affection. They are dysregulated by abrupt disconnection that their coping system never learned to tolerate. That is why this issue cannot be solved by scolding harder, leaving longer, or hoping the dog will simply get used to it. Flooding a fearful dog with long absences often backfires because repeated panic does not build confidence. It rehearses panic even more deeply. Healing starts when we stop reading the behavior as bad manners and start reading it as a body asking for safer transitions.
You're doing so well, Milo.
The first practical step is lowering the emotional weight of leaving,
That's it.
so the departure ritual stops sounding like an alarm bell inside. This is called a low-value departure, and it means teaching the dog that your leaving cues no longer predict immediate emotional disaster. Pick up the keys, then sit down and watch television.
All right.
Put on your shoes. Also then walk to the kitchen and make tea. Wear your jacket for 5 minutes without leaving. Open the door briefly, then close it again, letting the scary sequence lose certainty. At first, these repetitions may look pointless, but they are changing prediction, and prediction is where anxiety often begins, inside the dog. When shoes do not always mean abandonment, the Labrador's body can stop launching into panic before the actual departure even happens there. The second tool uses scent deliberately, because your odor can become a bridge instead of a frantic treasure hunt through the house. Leave an old shirt near the resting place, not freshly washed, but genuinely familiar, carrying the calm chemical signature your dog knows. This does not replace you, but it can soften the cliff edge by giving the nose something honest and steady to hold on to. The key is placement. Keep the scented item where the dog normally settles, so comfort and your smell begin linking together there. Do not wave the shirt dramatically before leaving, because the goal is quiet association, not making the departure ritual feel even heavier. The third tool gives the Labrador a job, because focused work can redirect anxious energy better than empty, waiting ever will alone. Right before you leave, offer a food puzzle, stuffed toy, or chew that invites licking, sniffing, and problem-solving instead of panic. This changes the inner question from, "Why are you gone?" to "What task can I complete with my mouth and brain now?" Licking and chewing also help regulate arousal, which means the toy is not just distraction, when it is part of nervous system recovery. Choose something safe, long-lasting, and special enough that it appears only during short absences, making departure predict effort, not emptiness inside. If the dog ignores food once you leave, that does not mean the idea failed. It means the anxiety is still too high. When anxiety is already flooding the body, appetite often disappears. So the training needs easier absences before the dog can engage fully. That means starting with tiny departures, maybe 3 seconds, maybe 10. Returning before panic arrives and teaching the nervous system a new ending. Success comes from repetition beneath the panic threshold, because calm practice builds confidence, while overwhelmed practice only strengthens the old alarm pathways.
Yes, you did so well.
Your returns matter too, because explosive greetings can accidentally confirm that separation was a huge event, worthy of huge relief for everyone.
I'm just getting ready.
Come back calmly, breathe first, let pause settle, then offer affection,
Over here.
so reunion feels safe and normal rather than emotionally volcanic again. This does not mean acting cold. It means showing your Labrador that togetherness is dependable enough that hellos do not need rescuing. Exercise helps, but only as support. Because a tired, anxious dog can still panic if the departure ritual still feels threatening today.
Time to go. I'll be back.
Mental decompression before leaving often works better. A sniff walk, a calm scatter feed, or quiet chewing can soften arousal levels nicely.
Be back soon.
What usually hurts progress is inconsistency. Practicing tiny departures one day, then suddenly leaving for an hour the next day, again alone. To the Labrador, that jump feels like the old disaster returning, and one overwhelming absence can erase several easier lessons very fast.
I miss
Management matters while training happens, which may mean pet sitters, daycare, family help, or scheduling absences the dog can handle right now. This is not cheating. It is protecting the healing process, because recovery cannot grow if panic rehearsals keep resetting the dog again. Some Labradors also benefit from independence practice when you are home,
so well, sweetie.
learning that resting a few feet away can still feel safe.
Get a little scared when I leave.
That
don't
might
you?
look like settling on a mat while you read nearby, then while you move around,
Let's
then while you step briefly out.
say just the toy.
These tiny gaps teach the Labrador that connection can stretch without breaking, which is the opposite lesson anxiety has been rehearsing inside. Progress is rarely perfectly straight, because stress, routine changes, illness, storms, or a single rushed departure can raise sensitivity again for days. What matters is the overall trend: shorter recovery, less frantic searching, easier engagement with food,
Time for
and more
breakfast.
moments of genuine rest daily. If your Labrador can stay with a chew for 2 minutes today after ignoring it yesterday, that small change deserves serious respect. Behavior improves in fragments first, a quieter start,
Get your toy.
a shorter bark burst, less damage, a faster exhale when you return home again. Those fragments matter because they show the dog is not being stubborn. The dog is becoming more physiologically capable of coping now. And if the anxiety is severe, with self-injury, non-stop panic, or inability to eat, professional guidance can change everything dramatically safely. A skilled trainer or veterinary behavior professional can help design thresholds, pacing, and support. especially when medication becomes part of healing safely. Medication is not failure. It can lower the flood enough for learning to happen, instead of asking a terrified brain to self-teach, because that is the real goal here. Not forcing silence, but helping your Labrador experience alone time without feeling emotionally abandoned inside. When the departure cues lose their sting, scent becomes support and food becomes purpose. The whole timeline after the door changes gently. 5 minutes no longer feel like denial. 15 minutes no longer spiral into cortisol-driven searching, and 30 minutes stop becoming catastrophe. The Labrador learns that your leaving predicts manageable moments, and your returning confirms safety, rather than rescuing him from a private storm. And the owner learns something just as important. The shredded object was never spite. It was evidence of distress inside the body. Once you understand that message, the whole response softens. And softness is often what finally gives an anxious dog room to recover. A Labrador with separation anxiety is not trying to be difficult. He is trying to stay connected in the only ways he knows. When we teach safer departures, steadier associations, and calmer reunions, we are not changing his love. We are changing his fear response. And when fear finally quiets, the closed door stops feeling like abandonment and starts feeling like a pause inside an unbroken bond.